Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
We've been expecting you.
Monday, time for our maven of the supernatural, Denise Pridemore. This is the Paranormal Pride. Join to listen and chat live on WBHM-DB.com or Spreaker app. Search WBHM-DB every Monday at 7 p.m. Central for your supernatural paranormal fix. Welcome to the Paranormal Pride, where the show is about the guest and the listener.
Welcome to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jamie Damelos. Is that correct? Did I say your last name right? Damelos. See, just depends on where you put the accent.
Exactly.
So I've known Jamie for almost 5 years. Hard to believe. So it's 4.5 years since I met you. That late night with. I don't know if you remember that. But,
I do. I just can't believe how much time flies.
Oh, I know. I remember my mom coming into that chat room and saying, "You should have wore makeup." I don't know if you remember that, but that was the first thing that came on. And from that, I got Brody and Katrina that are very good friends of mine and yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a meeting that was meant to happen.
I believe it was meant to happen.
So we're just going to start this all off because this is the first show of 2020 for us. But before we get much further, what I want to do is I want to tell everybody that my thoughts and prayers are with Jennifer Malik with the loss of her husband over the Christmas break. And my heart breaks for her. I've known her since I started my radio career and been thinking about her. And then I just got news a little bit ago that Jay Black, a paranormal investigator down in Springfield, Missouri, has had a stroke and he's declining. And if everybody could say prayers for both of them, that would make me extremely happy. Don't know how anything's going to turn out, but good thoughts never hurt anyone. So, and I always tell everybody the best place to be is in someone's prayers. So if you guys could all do that, it'd be great. So, and if you're in the Wisconsin area and you're going to go to Kevin's memorial, please look up Jennifer Malik or Kevin Malik, and you'll find all the information out there so you can attend. So, and I'd like to thank. It's on all of their pages. Any page that's out there. Is it on our page, Kat, on WBHM-DB.com? Or not .com, but the Facebook page. So it's also on WBHM-DB Facebook page if you want more information. There's also a fundraiser for Kevin out there if anybody wants to help with that. And those who did help, thank you so much. I know how much it's appreciated. So now we're going to get on to happier things. We're all going to have a happy new year. And I hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and everybody's recovering from whatever it is they did. We're going to leave it like Vegas. It's what happened on New Year's stays on New Year's. So from there, we're going to go, because I know you were friends with Kevin and Jenny as well.
Yes.
So I didn't think that you would mind bringing that up. So we're going to start with the easy stuff. So how did you get involved in the paranormal?
Well, I think the paranormal kind of came to me when I was 5 years old, 4 years old. I just started having feelings that I wasn't alone and could just feel other energies around me. I had some experiences with shadow people that were on my bedroom wall at night. I was a child that used to like to kiss everything goodnight. My parents would sit by while I kissed all my stuffed animals, and then I would kiss my shadows, you know, the balloon lamp. Every little balloon got a kiss. And then I would go and kiss these 3 spots on the wall. And one day they would ask me, what are you saying goodnight to over there? I said, the 3 people. And they said, what people? I said, the shadows. They couldn't see it. So this was something that went on like every night, our whole routine. And when, you know, they would start asking me about it, and we would try to figure out what it was. They would, you know, turn on the lights, turn off the lights, do something with my back sliding glass door, make sure there's no reflection. I would always see them. They were there. They didn't see it. I never got a negative feeling from them. They never moved. They moved around my room a little bit on the walls, but the only way I could describe it to them was Mork from Ork, because Mork and Mindy was something, you know, popular in the 70s. And they kind of had that shape of almost like the back of a vampire cape. Like, it looked like the back of a vampire cape, 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, you know, Mork from Ork. And I was always curious about that. I'd always just been fascinated with just that side of things without really knowing why. As I got a little bit older, I would notice messages and things in the radio or in the TV that seemed like it was talking to me, even though, you know, there was always somebody saying there's a coincidence for that. But I felt like, no, they're talking to me. I'm getting these messages. And Carrie and Poltergeist, you know, were popular movies. I would watch that, you know, when I was around 10, 11. Me and the girls would get into the slumber parties, you know, with the Ouija boards and scary movies, things like that. And I started getting the idea to play with my radio, manually tune that, try to get messages to come out, playing with the black and white TV with the popcorn to get images, and had my own hand-drawn Ouija board that I did with a Sharpie on a piece of cardboard with an upside-down ashtray. That was my Ouija board. My parents said I had to be 10 years old before I could have, like, my first official board. When I was 10, I got it for my birthday. I was so ecstatic. I wanted to know what was around me. I wanted to know if we could communicate with beings from the other side. Like I said, I always felt like I wasn't alone and that there were people watching me. I saw it in my mind almost as if there were people watching down, like they had CCTVs. You know, at the time, I didn't know what that was, but in my mind, I pictured all these monitors with beings just watching all of us. And I would stop and wave, thinking like, okay, if they're watching my screen right now, they'll see me waving. And got fascinated more into paranormal and ghosts and things. Ghostbusters was, you know, very popular then, you know, in the 80s. And I was like the freaky kid at the graveyard, you know, playing with the Ouija boards and things like that. So that continued on until probably 6 years ago. I started getting more into the radio side of it again. I started watching Steve Huff's videos, and I got really fascinated with the way he used the radios. And instead of him manually scanning them, he had a hack for the Radio Shack, Shack hack that he taught us how to hack. So my partner and I went out, found the last one at a Radio Shack in a 50-mile radius. We hacked it, and I was just like blown away by what we were getting. And I was just so intrigued by the things that Steve would get on his radios. And I would always say, I'm 99% sure, there's something there, but I could never, ever say 100%, because I always had that logical, I still do have that logical side to me, that there's got to be a logical explanation. There's got to be a way to explain it. But my intuition, deep down, I just knew things. I just felt things that I couldn't explain. And his videos, finally one day I was able to say 100%, it doesn't just end at death. It goes on. We go on. Life goes on. We can still talk to our loved ones. I believe our loved ones are still with us. And that changed my belief system and my faith tremendously. I've never been a religious person. I'm a spiritual person.
But you've had a lot of experiences with just the radios.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember, like I said, we met about 4.5 years ago. So it was not long after you started your love of ITC devices.
Exactly.
So with the early experiences and then these newer experiences, what stands out the most in there that was basically you had a catalyst that started it, but what was the Steve Huff videos, the catalyst that started your second life in the paranormal?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and, I'm not going to take a side on the Steve Huff thing because everybody has an opinion, because for a while there was a lot of arguing on the internet, especially in social media and YouTube, about all these different ITC device makers, kind of like there was a ITC war.
Yeah, developer war.
And so I never got into all the drama. Lucky me. So I don't have an opinion on anybody's equipment one way or another. So, yay. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people that have their camps.
And that's okay. And that's a big part of the field. You can see where it divides sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember you guys being very open with all of the information that you guys had to share. And you guys have a thing called the ITC Collective, you and Jason Bland. And you guys still do those like monthly shows on Paranormal Soup for ITC Collective?
Yeah, Steve Huff and Keith Weldon created the ITC Collective, and then Paranormal Soup would have ITC Collective Night, where Keith Weldon and Carissa would come on. Steve would come on once in a while, and we would just have like a ITC night.
And I know a lot of people listen to that because I see the replays a lot where people sit there and talk about what's being developed, newly developed. And about 3 years ago, we were with Braxton Roan in Missouri, and she had one of Steve's portals there. So we got to see that in action. And thought that was an interesting piece of equipment. And she had said she had just gotten it, so she had only used it like twice at that point. And I don't know how much he's used it since. And so I don't know much more about it other than, hey, Steve Huff made this, and we were getting some responses from the portal during the introductions. I mean, we were just at this location. They were doing introductions. They were giving us some history, and we were getting information from the portal during the introduction.
It's amazing how that happens.
And it all seemed very relative at the time. So I don't know. It's weird how some of that stuff works. But I mean, I know that for you do ITC research. So for you, you're looking at validity in your results, right?
Correct.
Okay. How often overall, not one piece of equipment over another, but overall, how often do you get results that are validated? Is it more than 50% of the time, 70% of the time?
I would say around less than 50.
Okay.
That would, for instance, if we're working on, say, we'll pull up a cold case, and we'll ask some questions about a cold case, and the box all of a sudden will start saying the name of the people that we're talking about. But like in about an hour and a half of doing that, we'll probably get 3 or 4 relevant responses that pertained to a specific thing that we were talking about, compared to just letting the run.
So when you started doing all this ITC research, did you have a preference at the time of devices, apps?
I did. I liked to try different things, and I liked to compare things against each other. I was very skeptical about when apps came into the picture. I was very, very skeptical about them. I didn't really trust it. And that's why I got to know the developers, because I would be emailing them, asking them questions about, this or that. I would set up different devices. I'd have like an Android phone and an iPhone with the same app on it, say, and I would have different equipment set up, EMF detector, for instance, a REM pod. So I wanted to see if I could get the same response on both, if both devices would ring at the same time, or if when relevant answers came out, if other things would come out. I was always just trying to figure it out. I would think about everything from radio interference, cell phone interference, if somebody was just on a CB radio somewhere, getting these messages. So for a long time, I spent really trying to break down what these apps were doing. And what I started finding was the more I was using it, the more relevance was coming out. My name would come out. It would mention what I was doing. If I was about to eat some pizza, it would say pizza. Just little things like that. So I thought, okay, well, there might be something to this. So Ghost Hunter Apps was one of the first softwares that I used that I really, really trusted, because it was really valid, the responses that I was getting. And that was a trusted one. I knew how he, put it together. I really trusted it. Keith Weldon's apps now are more portable and easy to use. I really, really enjoy his. And if I need to get an answer, if we're doing a show and we want to get responses for people that call in, his are my go-to apps, like Spiritus, because you'll always get at least one relevant thing each session with that app.
Okay. Because I know we used to do dueling apps, not like dual.
Mm-hmm.
We would have one up and another up. One person would have their EchoVox up, another person would have their EchoVox up, and it would sound like they were talking to each other. not getting the same information, but it was like that they're being manipulated by different things. But at that, we got to go to break. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back with Jamie in just a few minutes.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jamie. Say it again. So I can get this.
Damelos, but I go by Jamie D.
Jamie D.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. So if I don't write it the way that it sounds, then I lose it. So I'm a phonetic reader. So from being dyslexic. So that's the good part about ITC. You don't have to read, except for the code. Do you ever look at the code on the ITC devices, or do you know anything about code that the developers use?
I have seen it, but I don't read it.
Okay. Because I do. I'll look at it and see, hey, is it triangulating, trying to find a location where I'm at? Is it using Google? What's it doing to find out if it's pulling up stuff? Because I found some that do that. And so I keep notes on that. And because one of the very first ones that everybody came out with, everybody messed with was free. Ghost Radar.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one that I see anybody using that. I pull them aside and I explain to them how it works.
Very good.
Because you don't want people believing that this little thing has rate. I mean, if it was that easy, we'd all be there. We'd have a whole nation of ghost hunters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody would be looking at, well, they're already looking at their phones, but they would be looking at this, looking for this little dot. And of course, when it says, oh, it's an evil entity, it's an evil ghost behind you. Can you imagine how many people would, I mean, it's as bad as the ghost cameras.
Oh, yeah. I just picture Pokemon Go, but in a different, everybody running around chasing the blips.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I've seen that on some of the tours that we did, that people would pull this out. And of course, when you're doing a tour for like the Chamber of Commerce, you can't tell them. You just go, oh, that's interesting. Because you can't tell them that they can't have fun. And you just don't know what to say. But I'm going to get to these questions before I forget them, because I hate scrolling back and forth, because I promised them I'd get to them. This is from Donna Morgan. She goes, what was Jamie's biggest standout cold case ITC session?
That would have to be one that I was helping with in Florida. And we did end up hitting on a spot where they were able to find body matter in the ground, but because Florida has so much wild, roots and everything growing everywhere, they're having trouble pinpointing where the body would actually be, because the roots can carry, all the DNA all over the place. And that's one that was like finding a needle in a haystack. So I was surprised to be able to even get us that close to where they were definitely, finding evidence of remains right there. Whether it's actually the woman or not, we don't know. But they've got people now researching they've got it in the labs right now.
Oh, okay. And can you say what this cold case is or not?
This one, I'm getting it confused. It's Brandy Hall.
Okay.
There was two I was working on in the same kind of area, so I was trying to recall which. I didn't want to get them mixed up. Yeah, this one is Brandy Hall.
And how was her case brought to you?
There's a woman who had been searching for her on her own for years, and her family is getting older, and they want to know what happened to her. They're going to pass soon. The circumstances around her disappearance is extremely just very shady. And her husband, the woman that brought it to me, is an ex-policeman. So he has the search dogs and everything. And so she knew I did ITC, and she was curious if we could use Google Maps and ITC and narrow down a spot to search. So this was one of my first experiences using the box along with Google Maps. We would have the locations up that we felt she would probably be at. And there was a point where it was actually giving me directions, saying go left, go right, take the road. I have it all recorded, and it correlated with what I was doing on my screen, gave us directions right to this one spot. They even named this, tree that was right there. And in that area is where they happened to find, they got a hit on a metal detector. She has a gun that has never been found. I don't know if they ever dug to see what triggered the metal detector to go off, but they had found some fragments and some other things around there, and that's what brought them to know that something seems to be in this area here. And once they got it to the labs and everything, it got hush hush again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of waiting to hear back on that.
Well, that's hopefully you can bring some closure to someone on that. So, because nobody wants to think that they've left something undone.
Yeah.
Unfinished business, because it is theorized that unfinished business will cause a ghost. So is that true? Is that not? We don't know. Guess we'll find out someday. So I'm planning on leaving a lot of unfinished business. So be careful out there, everyone. Sherry asks, did you ever have any strange or bad experiences using a Ouija board?
Most of all, no, I have not. There was one point when I was young, and I was probably 12 or 13, and me and my friends were kind of messing with some things we shouldn't have been. And I had some experiences in my room where a cross would fall off my wall, and there would be some noises, things like that. My mom knew we were in there playing with the Ouija boards. For some reason, she came in one day. She said, I don't know what you guys are doing in there, but clean it up. And so I did a cleansing and, cleaned up as much as I could at the time, not really knowing what I was doing, but didn't have any problems after that. Other than that, I've never had anything negative, just in general.
Well, that's positive anyway, because there's a lot of people out there that have had negative experiences, but do you think that's due to intent?
I believe intent has a lot to do with all of what we do here. And what we're putting out into the universe and what we're searching for, what we're seeking, sometimes you get what you ask for. And when we were messing around, we kind of weren't asking for something positive, and we got something negative. We kind of got what we're asking for.
Yeah, you usually do.
That was the last time we went there.
In your bio, you said that you got your name when you were, for your team when you were married, and you guys were still, even though you had a team name, you were still basically independent paranormal investigators, and you still are.
Correct.
And so you're kind of like me and Ron. You investigate with who you want to investigate with when you want to investigate.
Exactly.
And it's easy. You don't have to sit there and coordinate with everybody.
And you don't have to have the drama or the politics involved.
No, there's a lot of that going on. I mean, even when there's just two people, it's not necessarily politics, but there's a differing of opinions that get in the way sometimes.
That's true.
And some of the places that you investigated, some of those are now gone.
Yeah.
Like Bonnie Springs Ranch is down the street from my daughter. And we never got to get there before they closed it down. It was still open when we were there in February. But by the time we got out there, the next time it was closed. Turning it into a subdivision.
We were the last tour there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I know that it was it's being turned into a subdivision and all that.
It's heartbreaking.
Well, when you see how landlocked they are out there, not so much. I just know that a lot of people want to move out from where they are. So, when you go up that road to go up to Bonnie Springs, you have to turn right off that road to go to where my daughter lives. And when we first started going out there to see her, there was nothing past Fort Apache, except for the houses where my daughter lives. All the other stuff wasn't there. So on Blue Diamond, you would get that far and it would be so dark that when you get to the mountain, there's no lights. So it seemed like you were in a totally different place. Of course, you turn around in that direction and you've got all this light from Las Vegas. But it did seem strange that we were driving into complete and utter darkness. We were driving to our house back then. Now there's lights and, 6-lane roads and all that other stuff. But that is one of the most dangerous roads in Nevada. It is Blue Diamond going towards Pahrump.
Okay.
So there's probably some spirits on there as well. But we're going to go to Bonnie Springs. So you got to investigate it before it closed down. What was the most interesting piece of evidence you got there?
I wouldn't say it's so much of evidence except a validation that I had got for my own intuition and my own self. We had Angry Joe there with us, and he was leading the tour. People might remember him from Ghost Adventures. And he's not angry. He's the sweetest man. But we were there with Rocky, and Melissa and Chad came down with us. And we started walking through the middle of it, and Joe was kind of pointing things out, this, and that. And I just turned and started walking towards this porch of this house and just stood there for a second. And you know how you have things that go through your mind and you never know why? It just things go through your head. Joe turned to me and looked at me and goes, "What did he say?" I said, "What?" He goes, "What did he say to you?" I said, "He wanted to say hello." And he starts laughing. He says, "In 6 or 8 years, you're the first person that has said that." There was a man that was known for sitting in that area, and he would call the females over just to say hi. Because I told him I felt like he just wanted to talk. Like, I just felt like he wanted company. And he said that the man would call people over just to sit there and chat with him. And so that for me validated, I didn't know why I was pulled that way. If Joe wouldn't have said anything, I just would have brushed it off thinking I was just examining, this dark porch. I wouldn't have thought anything of it.
Did you get to go there? Did you go during the day or did you go in the evening?
We went in the evening.
So were the animals and all still there at that time? Or had they already shipped all them out?
There were no animals at the time.
Okay. For those who don't know, Bonnie Springs had a petting zoo. They also had daily shootings and hangings and all kinds of other stuff. Because I looked at it for my granddaughter, because we wanted to take her to the petting zoo part. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how she'd feel about the shootings, but she does watch Live PD, and that is her favorite show. So, so she might be okay with the shootings, but I just know that it was really interesting. So. And after you did that, did you happen to go out and check out the Pioneer Saloon? Anything out there in Good Springs?
Okay, Pioneer Saloon was the place we were supposed to go. And that morning, something happened and we were not able to go. So at the last second, Rocky was able to pull up Bonnie Springs. So Pioneer Saloon is still on my bucket list.
We went. We've been out there twice now. Some hints: don't eat at White Castle there unless you have a loan. It's the closest one to you, probably. But it was expensive. It was like twice as much as it is here. And but it is the last place you can eat before you get out to Pioneer Saloon.
Oh, wow.
And then out there, we went out there, my granddaughter, they had a musician playing. And he was just playing. She walked right in the front door of the saloon, walked right out the back door, and walked out there and sat there and looked at this guy playing his guitar and singing. And she just started tapping her toes. And she just thought that we took her out there for her to see him. And then we took her back into the back room there and gave her an EMF detector, and she just walked around investigating everything. Of course, she just turned 3.
Oh.
So, at that age, she doesn't know, but she's just taking it around everywhere, and there's so much metal, you just don't know out there. But it is a very interesting place. But there's spirits in barrels all around there.
Wow.
People have their own tequila and other stuff in barrels out there. So, like I said, it's a really interesting place to go, and hopefully you can get out there. I don't know about doing an investigation out there. But like I said, it's an interesting place. We've been out there twice during the day. So, but we got some more questions for you, but we do have a few minutes to get those before the next break. Sherry asked, do you ever feel like you had an attachment or brought something home with you after a location?
Yes, I have. There's been several times that I feel like I've brought something home. One not so positive experience was from Preston Castle. I felt something did come back with me that was causing me to not be able to sleep. My cats, something would scare the cats, so they would jump on me and then scratched my eyes. Just really strange things. I felt I was pushed out of my chair. I did a cleansing. I, did what I do. Tell them, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Got rid of all that. Haven't had a problem with that. But there was a experience at a cemetery I would go to, and I had one of those little dictionary type apps, that had the words that came up. And it took me to, it said a name. When I looked up, I was actually standing at the box that had the name that was on, my equipment. I cannot remember the name now, but I started talking to, this spirit right there. And I normally would have turned off my equipment when I left, but because it was almost like a walkie-talkie. There was so much coming through, and it was just 5 minutes down the street from my house. I left it running in the car, and as I was driving home, I was still getting, these answers and responses and things. And so, when I got home, I said, okay, well, thank you for talking to me. I was being really lazy that day. Thank you for talking to me. And,
That's good, because now we're going to take a break.
Okay.
So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I will be asking the rest of these questions when we get back to Jamie.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jamie D. And she's talking about some of the location that she's been. And the rest of that question that I had, that when we talked about attachments, and Sherry also added to that, what's your favorite location and why?
I think my favorite location is Hotel Leger in Stanislaus Gold Country out here. I'd gone there with my last partner back through when I was married, and they've changed management several times, but I've always had permission to go down alone into the basement to do sessions, and there was a jail down there. And I just feel the most comfortable there. Some of the responses aren't so sweet. These guys, they didn't take well to women down there, but I got some of the best evidence, best recordings from that location.
Well, and then we have another question from Donna. She says, Jamie lives in California on a fault line. Does she get weird or active paranormal activities surrounding an earthquake, like before or after?
Nothing that I've noticed yet, but it's always been something I've wondered about.
Well, they say that certain events can cause higher paranormal activity, such as a thunderstorm, or it was theorized that the totality of the eclipse, we had solar eclipse out here, and when we were at the Sally House, we were in it during the time, that there's, it's theorized that you'll have more paranormal activity during one of those types of events, meteorological. So, it's worth a try.
Yeah, the cool thing with that, though, is you can plan on it. When I know there's going to be certain events, certain planetary, phenomena happening, or eclipses, meteor showers, all of that, I'll set up special sessions. But with an earthquake, you don't know when it's going to happen, so it's hard to, unless you happen to be doing a session when it happens, I don't really know how to prepare for that yet.
Yeah, my daughter was taping our granddaughter during one of the earthquakes recently, and she's standing there and she's doing the video, and she goes, the earthquake happened right there. And then they had another earthquake when she was doing that. So,
oh, wow.
And it was during the tremors. And like I said, it wasn't that long ago because, like I said, my granddaughter's only 3, and it's been since she turned 3. So sometime between September and last month. So, but, for her, she's going to remember that. And especially since my daughter happened to be taping her at the time. So it's very, you can't plan on it, but you can at least use the aftershocks because those are going to happen.
That's true.
Usually.
That's true.
So, but at least it's an option.
It is. I'm always willing to try anything.
So, you got to start somewhere with that. So, let me see if we've got any other questions in the other chats. This is from Tom McNicholas. Does Jamie have any pets they may help her attune to the paranormal?
I do. I've got cats. Yes, I am a crazy cat woman. I didn't ask for it. They've all come to me.
How many?
I have 7.
Oh, okay. That's good because we have 6.
Okay.
So it makes me feel normal. We only have 5 in the house, though, and one's outside.
Oh, yeah, we have a little sanctuary for them. But they all are different. And the cool thing about them is I use them for all sorts of detectors. They are very in tune to activity. When I'm doing sessions and things, I'll sense something and I'll feel it, say, up to my upper right, but I'm not looking at it. I feel it. I'll all of a sudden see the cat looking up that way and, looking all crazy and things like, okay, I think the cat, is seeing that too. But they can predict an earthquake for me. They act a certain way, and I'll say, I guarantee we are going to have an earthquake within 20 miles in the next 2 hours. And usually we do, because Day is on top of it.
We'll see. Then what you need to do is you need to hook up a GoPro camera on the cat, or a motion sensor camera at home for if you're not at home when an earthquake happens, and see what happens there if there's any paranormal activity at that time. Do you have paranormal activity in your home?
I'm right now staying at my mom's house, and this is the house that I had the Ouija board experience, and I'm in that room. This room here is when I've had a full body apparition come to me 5 times. I could see her clear as day. I thought it was my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom would be at night school. I would be sleeping. My mom would walk by the door and check in on me. But she was, and I'm saying she with air quotes, would come in and turn my light on and look at me. And I'd kind of look at her and, close my eyes, what are you doing, After 3 days of that, I told my mom, I said, Mom, when you come home, can you not turn my light on? Because it's, keeping me up for school. And my mom says, I don't turn your light on. I just walk by and check on you. I said, yeah, you are. I said, I see you there. You're wearing that weird nightgown and you're turning my light on. She said, what weird nightgown? I said, that white nightgown with the lace on the wrist. She goes, Jamie, I don't have anything like that. And so the woman had come by again, and I never got a bad feeling. Then I would look at her. When she was looking at me, I would look at her. Didn't have a creeped out bad feeling, just like she was watching me. And then she turns off my light, and you hear the feet shuffle off down the hall. Well, it was the 5th or the 6th night. She had done it again. And I said, oh, wait, let me go back one. She had come back by again, left. I got up and I touched my light bulb to confirm it was warm, making sure I wasn't dreaming. The light bulb was warm. So then the night after when she came by, I said, I don't mind you checking on me. I said, but can you please not turn my light on? It's keeping me up for school. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me and she turn off the light. She turned and I could hear her shuffle off. Never saw her again, though all family members have heard shuffling in the hall. It's like we talk about the noises in the hall, the shuffling in the hall. What was interesting is I was about 8 years old when this happened. And a couple of years ago, a childhood friend of my sister's was here with her daughter that's also 8. And my sister's friend and my mom were talking in the kitchen, and the child was back here looking for the cat or whatever. And it was time to go. They call her out there, and they said, so what were you doing, petting the cat? And she goes, no, I was talking to Tara's sister. Tara's my sister. And they said, Jamie's not here. And she said, yeah, she is. She's in the back. And they said, no, she doesn't live here, and she's not here. We're the only people here. And she says, yeah, she was. And she was very adamant that she was talking to a woman that she thought looked like me. When I saw the woman, I thought it looked like my mom. Me and my mom have similar features. So that starts making me wonder if it's some sort of a relative maybe or something.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was really, when I heard that, I was like, yes,
Validation.
Yes.
So, and you're not crazy alone.
I'm not crazy alone.
Nobody wants to be alone and crazy.
No.
So, back to the meteorological type stuff. We had another question about that. And the question was, do you think that there's, Shady asks, what about during an equinox? Is there a shift or an increase at the moment of the equinox? Like the first day of winter, at that moment, first day of summer.
I do practice on those days, and I haven't noticed anything as far as getting anything more extraordinary than any other time during those times. But I do feel that things like that can affect things as far as making communication any stronger or better. I don't know, because it's just always just been the same.
Well, like I said, to me, I haven't noticed when I go investigate. We went investigating one time on a full moon, one time on a new moon. Got nothing either time. Yeah. But 3 days before, yep. 3 days after, yep. And it seemed like to be at its peak for us 3 days before or 3 days after a new moon or a full moon. I don't know how other people feel about that, but that's how it was for us.
And I pick it up. I can actually feel the energy change, though, and it's 3 days before. If I hadn't noticed what's been going on, or reading my charts for a couple of days, all of a sudden I'll start feeling an energy. It's like, what's going on? I look, it's like, oh, we're 3 days away from a new moon, or this, like, okay, now that makes sense. I do feel I do feel the energy a lot stronger around that time.
It seems like paranormal activity is on a cyclical cycle.
Yeah.
I know that sounds strange, but sometimes it seems to be, and for some places, it's just, that's the way it is. There may be other locations that the activity is the best on the full moon, but is that because whatever activity occurred there that caused the paranormal activity occurred on a full moon?
Exactly.
Because when you read some of these legends, it happens on the full moon of the third month, things like that. It's this weird, long, drawn-out story that says this, or on a moonless night, So it just makes you wonder if it's just how the story goes. So I have no clue on that, but maybe I should start looking at some of those legends and trying to investigate some of them and see what's, is there any fact to that? Is there any fact that this place is more active at this time, or is it going to be more active some other time? I mean, you have to have a lot of access to do that, though.
Yeah.
Which I used to have a lot of access to some places, but now I don't.
And I run things when we have meteor showers and things. There's been times I still have actually a spirit session I haven't reviewed yet from 2 years ago, where I just let the spirit box run during the entire eclipse through the the complete phase happening. I let it run. I wanted to hear if there were any changes or what kind of verbiage was coming out while it had happened. So I love setting up experiments during these times and things. I believe, like out in San Francisco, being around the water, around the ocean, I do feel the energy stronger around water locations like that. I think the ocean affects paranormal quite a bit.
You know what? We're going to come back to this because there are some things I want to ask you about water in particular. And we're coming up on our top of the hour news break. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. My guest tonight is Jamie D. If you have any questions, please put them in either one of the chat rooms, and I will make sure those questions get asked. So guys go get a drink and come back. We'll be waiting for you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. Tens of thousands of people packed the streets of Tehran today to follow a procession for the body of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. He was killed last week by U.S. drone strike in Iraq. Among the general's eulogists was Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. From Tehran, NPR's Mary Louise Kelly reports.
Starting before dawn, streets leading to Tehran University were closed. From across the city came mourners, the women dressed in traditional head-to-toe black funeral garb. Many wept openly as Khamenei prayed over the body and as the casket then made its way out the main gates of the university through Revolution Square. The funeral procession has been moving city to city across Iraq and now Iran. Iran's leaders are promising retaliation for Soleimani's death. President Hassan Rouhani has said, quote, "The great nation of Iran will take revenge for this heinous crime." Mary Louise Kelly, NPR News, Tehran.
Some top Senate Democrats are calling on President Trump to immediately declassify the administration's reasoning for the deadly strike on the top Iranian general. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Foreign Relations Committee's Senator Robert Menendez say there's no legitimate justification for keeping the information from the public. Schumer says it's far from clear what was behind the attack.
President Trump had promised to keep the United States out of endless wars in the Middle East. The president's actions, however, have seemingly increased the risk that we could be dragged into exactly such a war.
Schumer and Menendez made their remarks in a letter to Trump saying the White House's classified notification sent to Congress Saturday under the War Powers Act was insufficient. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell accused lawmakers of rushing to criticize the president's actions before knowing the facts. As former movie mogul Harvey Weinstein's sexual assault trial got underway today in New York, new charges were filed against him in Los Angeles. NPR's Anna Jaffrey reports the charges stem from two alleged incidents in 2013.
Weinstein has been charged with raping one woman and sexually assaulting another. Charges include forcible rape and sexual battery by use of restraint. In a statement, Los Angeles County District Attorney Jackie Lacey said, "We believe the evidence will show that the defendant used his power and influence to gain access to his victims and then commit violent crimes against them." In one incident, Weinstein went to a hotel and allegedly raped a woman after pushing his way into her room. The second alleged assault took place the next evening in a hotel in Beverly Hills. L.A. County prosecutors are asking for bail to be set at $5 million. If convicted, Weinstein could face up to 28 years in prison. Ina Jaffe, NPR News.
Despite heightened geopolitical tensions, stocks managed to eke out modest gains, the Dow up 68 points today. You're listening to NPR. A magnitude 5.8 earthquake that rattled Puerto Rico just before dawn caused some small mudslides, power outages, and damage to homes. It was one of the strongest quakes yet to hit the U.S. territory, which has been rattled for the past week. There were no immediate results of casualties. Several additional weaker quakes have struck since this morning. A transport strike in France has entered its 33rd day. A majority of the country supports the labor movement against President Emmanuel Macron's unpopular overhaul of the French retirement system. More from NPR's Eleanor Beardsley.
With the holidays over, Parisians are again dealing with scant public transportation and choking traffic as they try to get to and from work. The latest poll shows 53% of the public is against the reform and supports strikers seen as fighting an unfair deal for everyone. 43% of the French consider that President Macron is to blame for the labor conflict, while only 28% believe it's the union's fault. Macron is anxious to get a moderate union, the country's largest, on board with the reform. Meanwhile, the country's hardline union rejects Macron's plan outright. They've called for nationwide protests this week and for other workers to get involved and ramp up pressure against the government by blocking the country's oil refineries. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
Another major dairy chain is filing for bankruptcy. Borden Dairy Company, whose products include milk and ice cream, filing for bankruptcy protection at a time American refrigerators are increasingly becoming filled with dairy substitutes. Borden, whose smiling Elsie the cow mascot first appeared on milk cartons in the 30s, dates back to 1857. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight is Jamie D. And we've been talking about all kinds of stuff. So the first thing we're going to get back to, though, is water. We were talking about water before the break, and you were talking about the ocean. So let's go. So do you remember what you were talking about the ocean?
Yeah, I feel that it's almost like a conductor, and it helps. I don't know if it helps them to communicate with us, but I feel it makes it's I get better communication, I get a better vibe. I just feel like the ocean, somehow the power of it is feeding them maybe, or powering them somehow. And I've seen a lot of different stories where you hear all of a sudden that there's an old mill on the property or something like that. So there's a lot of stories that I've noticed that are connected to water sources and things like that. So I think it almost generates, the way we use water to generate power, I think it generates power for them too.
Do you think that there's a difference in water type, spring water, river water, the ocean, if the type of water makes a difference?
I don't know about the type of water, but I think the movement of the water.
Because I didn't know if maybe water with a higher mineral content, like spring water has a lot of, some spring waters have a lot of mineral content, some which is poisonous. And then you've got salt water, which is a mineral as well. And then you've got just fresh water, which I don't even know what's in that. I hope nothing, but I know better since there's a lot of pollution. Do you know if any of that might make any difference?
I haven't got to really experiment with that, but there's an old hotel I had seen on a ghost paranormal episode where they went and there was a mineral spring in the back. Mm-hmm. And I think it was for tuberculosis or something. They would put the people out in that spring to cure them for some reason. And that, I believed the minerals had a lot to do with it, because the type of minerals, I can't recall what was in it, but it's basically the, formula for a paranormal haunting.
Because a lot of spring water is filtered through limestone, especially like in the Kentucky area, mm-hmm. which is the reason why they use that water to make bourbon. Again, spirits in a bottle, but it makes you wonder if that, because a lot of these distilleries are haunted. Is it, it makes you wonder, is it because of the limestone and the water, or is it, just because things happened on that property? You just
or an
don't know.
accident with the crew.
Yep. And that, in some of the places we've been, yeah, that's it. But then there's also some of the places we've been, they have children who live there that just died from illness, things like that. But again, you've got all these other things going as well. And maybe that's the bigger part. But like I said, I don't know in the ocean, other than the movement, what other, I know there's coral, there's all kinds of stuff in the ocean, but what kind of other things, minerals or deposits out there would make it more active besides just the movement?
Or the type of rock that perhaps the waves are pounding on.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a lot of quartz in the veins, if it's a lot of quartz rock around there, I think that with the water, just continuously pounding on that. I don't know.
Yeah, because then you've got places like Hawaii that has all different colors of sand. So all different kinds of minerals getting into their water out there, so
volcanic
just make sure,
energy.
Right. And then, like you said, ocean with the sand and stuff, you've also got the kinetic movement of the sand, which, things rub together, that makes energy. So I can see that. So, there's a lot of things out there we're only touching the surface. So since we're talking about water, and some people use water as an ITC method. Have you ever done that?
I have.
Have you gotten anything from that?
Myself, I have not. I've not gotten anything that I thought was anything spectacular. My only type of alternative, like ITC, as far as, doing smoke or fire, type ITC, was scrying on a crystal ball that I had gotten an image of my father on, that I had the whole thing caught on tape. But water ITC, I have not had much luck. Rob wants to do an experiment, though. He's got this really big singing bowl that makes, a really good vibration when you hit it. And so one of these Weird Wednesdays, we're actually going to do some water ITC experiments in the singing bowl and see what happens.
And this is Rob who?
Rob Autry.
Okay. I just want to make sure we get the right name out there because there's so many Robs.
Yeah. That's Rob on the panel of Paranormal Soup with us, and my co-host will work host together on Weird Wednesday show.
Well, like I said, it'd be interesting to see what you get, because those singing bowls make some unusual sounds, and they're really neat to pay attention, to look at and stuff. I don't have one. I've seen them. I've played with them at the store. Almost everybody's played with them at the store or at the Mystic festivals. So it's just a matter of, how big is this bowl that he's got? Is it?
His is huge. Now I've got a palm-sized one that he actually sent me because he knew I was shopping around looking at him. His is, and it's antique. It's very old. Mm-hmm. It's a special bowl. I would say it's like a salad bowl. It could go over your head.
Oh, a haircut bowl.
Yeah, a haircut bowl.
That's what we used to tease after I cut my sister's hair. It looked like my mom had put a bowl on her head to cut her. I cut her hair.
Oh.
So I cut her hair in the closet. It was dark. It looked really bad. So my mom had to cut her hair, and it looked like she had put a bowl on mine and Donna's head, because I cut my hair too, but mine wasn't as bad. But kid memories, things that you do in Patterson, New Jersey for fun. You go in the closet and you cut your sister's hair. So
in the dark.
Well, I was 3, maybe 4. So at least I only cut her hair.
Yeah.
I didn't cut up her clothes or anything. But so I appreciate all your answers on all this ITC stuff. If I was to go out and buy an ITC app or device, which one do you think would be the best one for somebody just starting out in the paranormal?
I always say whatever speaks to you. Watch videos of people using different ones that kind of catch your eye. If you're looking into apps, I would watch videos of people using those apps and see how you feel with it. They really do speak to you. For me, my go-to app right now is Keith Weldon's Spiritus app, because I can get stuff like this with it. The portal is wonderful. I love the portal. It's not necessary. You can do a lot of this with just a speaker. With the recorders, I have a Zoom, different ones. A $13 Amazon recorder works just great for EVPs. So I would just say what speaks to you, and just watch what other people are using. Don't go spend a whole lot of money on something that you're not familiar with yet.
And have you heard anything about the, okay, you already talked about that one. There are so many apps out there. I know that a lot of people in my chat use the EchoVox.
Mm-hmm.
And is there another piece of equipment that's similar to that? Because I think you just said Spiritus, and there's some other ones out there that are similar to that. Have you ever used the EchoVox?
I did. That was one of the first ones when apps became a thing, when we got smartphones and we had apps, and they first started coming out with, Ghost Radar and Ghost Picture Camera and all that. EchoVox was one of the first mobile apps they had. And so I did use that one quite a bit.
Did you get any good information from that?
I did, but I had a really dark experience that happened around a session that I was actually had a warning not to use it. It kept warning me, and I pushed it. I thought, well, let me just try again. It's like what's going to happen if I do this? And something had happened to one of my animals coincidentally around this happening, kind of went along with what the threat was. Mm-hmm. So it really scared me. And I don't, if I have any sort of a fear, I usually don't have a fear in things. If I do have a fear in me about something, I won't use it, because I think that, it can get to you that way. So because of my experience, I had stopped using it.
And she's talking about when she used the EchoVox, she had some negative experiences with that. And at one time they had not an Echo, it was a DarkVox, mm-hmm. which was based on the same premise as EchoVox by the same guy. And it went down a whole different road. And we heard some really horrible things out of that. I mean, it worked good, okay, but the things it said was horrible.
Very dark, very dark.
So, and we do have some other questions here. Well, we're going to wait on that because we have a minute until our next break. So I will get to the questions after the break. But like I said, I really appreciate you talking about all of these different apps. It's just interesting to hear someone else's opinions of the ones that I haven't used at this point. So
I know some really good ones that are very cheap and free that are great to play with.
Well, you know what? After the break, if you want to tell people some of those, that'd be wonderful. And that way we can get some traffic for some of those, because at some point they stop getting the traffic because something new has come out, and so without word of mouth, nobody's going to know that these other apps still exist. So everyone, you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. My guest tonight is Jamie D, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. So let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride, and I'm here tonight with Jamie D. And we're going to go back to one of the questions. And Donna asks about, what about crystals in water? When we were talking about water before, do you think crystals in water has any impact, putting crystals in there?
Well, that depends on what you're doing with it. Spiritually, we, if you're Wiccan or follow paganism, you'll make moon water and you'll put your crystals in that water and you'll use it for cleansing spray, for doing cleansings, things like that. As far as just putting crystals in the water, I don't know. Crystals hold a lot of vibration. Is she asking for ITC, like putting the crystals in the water to do water ITC?
Don't know, but there's a lot of ways we can go with this.
Yeah.
Because now people are drinking water with crystals in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's could be dangerous if you think that you've got one crystal and it's another. Because some of these crystals, are poisonous. And those little shards of them can make you really sick. But, that's where knowing your crystals comes in handy. But I don't know what Donna is referring to, but I think, like I said, I think we can go a couple different ways here. Crystals in water for ITC. I don't know. I've never seen anybody do that. I've seen them just use water and watch for the vibrations in the water.
That might be an interesting experiment, though, because, they do hold a vibration that maybe it might help them to manipulate the image in the water better.
Yeah. Don't know. And which crystal would be best? Nice
Probably quartz.
A nice amethyst to draw in something nice.
True.
Your labradite, whatever it's going to draw in, it's just not going to draw in anything negative. Just depending upon what your intent is again.
Exactly.
So because you could use the water just like a Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, you're not going to see letters, but you're going to get something out of it at some point. And so while we're at this, I'm going to ask the questions that I know that when Gary and Carl come to listen to the show and replay, they would have. The first question would be what is your favorite equipment to use on an investigation?
Myself. I follow my intuition. I think I'm the best piece of paranormal equipment as far as getting the vibe for where to go, finding locations. And then I like to have a recorder with me. It can just be a cheap recorder. It can be your phone, a recorder on your phone. And I like to have an ITC app with me, like Spirit is on my phone. That's on iPhone and iOS or Android.
And go ahead.
Those are probably my go-to things. If I'm going to jump up and go somewhere right quick, those are the things that I'm going to bring with me.
Okay. When we were on break, you'd said something about some of the apps that are out there that are free or very inexpensive that are out there. Could you give me put some of those names out there of those apps?
Matt Payne actually has Paranormal Shadow Investigations, and he has several apps that work really well, and they'll either be free or $1.99, and that's because of the file size. He doesn't want to charge you, but if it's a certain file size, he has to. So you won't see it over $1.99. The Murmur box is great. The Portal is great. He made with Rocky called the Banshee box, and I think that one is my most favorite out of his because you can talk like a walkie-talkie, and I don't even need a speaker with it. Like, I'll pick up my phone, ask it a question, it's answering me, and that works a little bit like the SCD of Anthony Sanchez. It's a little bit similar, but that's my favorite. So any of his, if you just take a look at his website, and his are only Android. Keith Weldon's apps, like the Sweep Ghost Box, Necrophonic, Spiritus, all of those are about $14. Both available on iOS and Android.
Right. And are there any Windows apps that you can recommend?
That would be Anthony Sanchez. I think he's the only person that I know of that does the Windows apps, and that's at ghosthunteraapps.com, and he's got an array of them. My favorite is the SCD.
Okay. I say I can't keep track of all of them, and it's just a matter of time. We'll be out on an investigation and we'll hear somebody say something about the Phasma box or about their Alice box, and the Alice box is quite old at this point. I think it's about 4 years old. And as far as apps go, that's old. So, and when you were talking about Rocky, who are you talking about?
That's Christopher Gates.
Okay.
Rocky with the Chill Seekers.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're talking about the right people and
Yeah.
giving them credit where credit's due and all that, because the only Rocky I know is Rocky Foreman, and his name came to me through all kinds of different things, but we were at this paranormal location and the spirit came and told me that it didn't like Rocky.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know him well, but I think he probably knows that already. So I appreciate all the answers. And let's see, there was another question in here that I know that I have missed, and I'll come back to it if I find it. Do you use dowsing rods?
I do. In fact, I just used them the other night while trying to help my mom look for her missing cat.
Did you find the cat?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I have had a lot of luck using dowsing rods, trying to locate, for instance, when I was trying to find George Ledger's grave in the cemetery he was buried in behind the hotel. Could not find it. Got out my rods. They took me right there. I've had a lot of luck being led to the right place using the rods and getting answers, letting them know, cross for yes, turn out for no, and just sitting there and asking questions.
Do you ever have a spirit that refuses to do, there are some places that I'll have to ask the spirits what is yes and what is no for them, because there's sometimes that they're the opposite at some places, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just the spirit being ornery, but, I have no clue.
It depends if it's a place I go to a lot where they're familiar with me, then they already kind of know what I'm doing. If it's a brand new place, I'll feel them out and kind of show them what I'm using. And I'll ask, what's easier for, this is how you do it. What's easier for you? Would you rather have me do it this way? And a lot of times they'll tell you what they want. When I'm testing, they'll even say testing. They know I'm testing.
Well, that's good to know. And Rob just showed up in the other chat room, so you'll know.
Rob!
So he's been listening since the start, so he's heard you mention his name. So,
that's my buddy.
There you go. So, let's see what else I can find here in the questions. When did you find out about dowsing rods?
20 years ago.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. So, and then Sherry asks you a question here too. It says, "What's your opinion of the Ovulists?" She says, "I love them, although I don't own one, but I've heard they're programmed to say certain words, which the words are programmed into there, but it's for the spirit to select the word, correct?"
Correct. It's like pulling a flashcard. Now there's a couple different models of Ovulists. The one that is pre-programmed with the dictionary words, so they can just pull out what they want. Okay. There's one, I believe, that you can actually dump the dictionary and program whatever words you want. So say you're at a location and the woman's name is Helga and she was hung. And so you program just 2 words in there, Helga hung. So when that is activated, it's going to pull one of those 2 words out, which is going to be relevant, right? And so there's a lot of ways for people to fake it with those ones. Manipulate, yeah. So I don't trust it.
I don't like anything with the words built in.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, only because of the fact that, there was this one app that somebody had downloaded and brought to the McPike Mansion. And it kept saying, "This house is haunted." And I'm like, I said, what app is that? And they told me the name of it. And I was like, I said, did you pay for that? And they go, no. And I said, okay, good. Because I said, it's a piece of junk. And he goes, why? I said, because it said this house was haunted 7 times. I said, apparently we're really dumb or the spirit is really dumb. I said, because we've heard that, 7 times. And so that's one of the things that I went in and I looked at the code and found out the sentence is pre-programmed in there and it's randomized to come up every 8 minutes or so, 7 to 8 minutes. And so that's one of the things about reading code can help you. You can find out if stuff is randomized to just pop up at certain times from the time that you turn it on.
And that's why I like Keith's apps, because he's got, no full words put in there at all. The apps where they'll use, the basics of, phonetic, of the tones of speaking, different, I can't think of the word right now. Like the forming speech, basically. Those apps I like because the spirits manipulate it to form a word.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not too keen on the ones that have a full word. And I get it. They can manipulate it. They know, somewhere in there, this word's in there and they can pull it. But that also limits them to a database of only so many. And you have to hope that what they want to communicate with, you about is in that database.
Right. Because they're limited on, and with partial words that they're able to put together, they may be able to put together at least a story.
Yeah.
Do you feel that some of these ITC devices are similar to a Ouija board? Same as even?
I do. I think it's just a different form of using it. It's just a different tool.
And, like I said, it's just always interesting to hear these other things that are out there. So here's another question from Sherry. And she asks, does Jamie feel that she has any psychic or empath abilities?
I don't use the word psychic, but I am highly intuitive and highly empathetic. I've been that way forever. And there's a lot of things that I just know without knowing how I know it. And things will happen that I kind of knew was going to happen, but I never know if it's going, if I'm on or not until it actually happens.
Right. Well, that's true with almost everything. So you just feel like you know things, but sometimes you don't know that you know them until later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and dreams. I have a lot of dreams that come true.
Do you keep a dream diary?
I used to. I haven't in 5-6 years, but I did used to keep a dream diary.
We have another question from Donna. She says, concerning things like Ouija boards and doing sessions asking for spirits, can you talk about properly closing the session? So many people are doing spirit sessions and they're not closing the session and end up bringing something not so nice at home with them.
It's good practice to, if you're doing a session, especially if you're somewhere else, not in a place that, like in your home maybe, to put your intent out to do, whether you call it a prayer, whatever your belief system is, your higher power is, you put out your intent for what your session is. You ask to be protected. You ask, you thank them. You ask to be protected and looked over. When you're finished, you then let them know that you're now closing the session out. You thank them for their help. You lay the ground rules down. Let them know, if I don't want anybody following me home after this, you need to stay here. But it's all about intent and what you're doing and making your intent known.
And when you make your intent known, how would be the best way to let the spirits know what your intent is.
Just verbalize it.
But what if you verbalize that and that's not really what your intent is? Do the spirits know that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. See, I'm just basically asking, do the spirits know that people can be mean? Or I was going to say, it's another word that I can't say, but, that they're being a jerk, So
I believe
as long as they know.
I believe spirits know what we're thinking and feeling before we even say it. They know if we're lying and if we're not being true to ourselves. They know that. And there are spirits that can be not so nice. I believe you carry on whatever your soul, your personality. When you pass, that is the personality that you're going to have, stay with your soul. So if you weren't a very nice person when you were living, I don't think your spirit is going to be a very nice person.
That's true. Some things don't change. Let's see. I'm making sure we don't have any other questions. We do not in the one chat. Like I said, I don't want to forget anybody. I'm going to change the direction of this. We're going to talk about going forward since we only have about 20 minutes left and we've got a break coming up. So what do you have planned coming up? Any events that you're planning on going to?
I don't have anything specifically right now coming up, though. We've been a few groups have been talking about getting together, and it's always, when people are in different states and things, it's hard to get, people together at the same time. But we've been talking about having like a pretty big meetup this year sometime, hopefully. And I don't know if that'll be in Arizona or California, but hopefully soon.
That's quite a distance for you to drive.
Yeah.
So I guess we drive to Vegas twice a year, so we know how long a drive can be. So, but it is what it is. Do you have any investigations planned for the next year or this year now?
No, right now it's all open, and I had actually taken about 18 months off really doing things like that. There was some investigations in the middle, like last year I went on the Nick Groff USS Hornet tour. There was a couple other investigations. Mirror. I can't think of. It was a Halloween one that we did.
Well, you know what? You'll have some time to think about that because we're at our next break.
Oh, very good.
So everybody come back so you can hear where you can find Jamie and what she's got coming up here on WBHM-DB.com out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be waiting for you to come back.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host
Kat Hobson, Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride, and
Digital
I'm your host, Denise Pridemore, and my guest tonight has been Jamie D. And we were talking about
experienced
when we left, we were talking about some of the investigations that you did last year while you were on break. Is there one that sticks out from the last 18 months that you were taking off?
The USS Hornet was a lot of fun.
What made it fun?
Because I had a few experiences that we were able to validate again, and personal things I was able to validate. So the amount of validation that I got was really, really exciting.
And how was it investigating with Nick Groff?
That was a lot of fun. He actually we were in one of the bunker rooms, and Jeff and I were one of the only people that were filming. That was an actual paranormal team on the tour. There was a couple of people that had their Ghost Radar apps and, things like that there, but we, had our full on equipment and everything. And, while he was talking to the group, had me go lay on one of the back bunkers that he had an experience on when he had filmed there. And so I was just laying there, didn't know, what I was waiting for. But all of a sudden I heard a growl in my ear. And so I stopped him and I said, "Excuse me, but I think I heard a growl." And he says, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, a lot of people hear a growling right there." So I got the growl. And then when we were in the church, I was standing in the back and I looked up and I saw a black shadow shoot across the ceiling towards where Nick was. And as I was showing Jeff and pointing up, I saw Nick look up and point to the ceiling that he had just seen something. So he didn't see me pointing. I was in the back, but I saw him notice it. And that was just really cool. It wasn't just my eyes seeing something, something definitely went across there. And then when we were in the communications room, I could physically feel sailors around me, like they were touching me. And every time I was being touched, all the equipment around us was going off. Like I would be able to say before the equipment went off, I'd say it's going to go off. And then it would go off because I could feel them, coming up against my back and things.
That's interesting. Because I know it's weird when it coincides with something else. Not that it's a coincidence, but it's two experiences in one. So instant validation.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wanted to find you, how would they find you?
They can find me on Facebook under Jamie Damelos. I've got my profile there. And from there, I've got my different links posted. I'm on every Sunday, Paranormal Soup with Jason Bland and Rob Autry. Every Wednesday, the Weird Wednesday show with Rob Autry.
And what time is Paranormal Soup?
That is 8 o'clock Pacific time.
So 10 o'clock Central Time and 11 o'clock Eastern Time. For those of you trying to do the time change in your head. I know because I've been on the show and had to stay up until after midnight.
Yeah.
It's really, and there's always replays of it out there available for anybody who wants to watch it. And it's still on YouTube, but it's also on Facebook, right?
Yeah, it's a simulcast now. So we've got it on Facebook as well as YouTube. Everything's archived. Oh, and Paranormal Talk Radio. It plays on Paranormal Talk Radio.
Yeah, don't forget that. So, and what time is your Weird Wednesdays on?
That is 9 o'clock Pacific time.
So 11 o'clock Central, for those of you that can't do the time change. Unless you're in Arizona, and it could be totally different for you. Sometimes it's Pacific, sometimes it's Mountain. So I have a heck of a time with that for meetings. So
yeah.
What's your favorite part of doing these radio shows?
Getting to talk to different people and hearing their experiences, because I know my own experiences. I know how I feel, but hearing other people's experiences and their stories sometimes adds fidelity to mine. Things that I never, things that I haven't experienced, getting to hear. I learn a lot from everybody that I come in contact with. All of our guests that we have, I've learned something from. All the people that participate in the collective and the other groups like that, I learn a little bit of something from everybody.
And from mine, you probably learned what not to do. I'm kidding. So if you guys want to go out there and check out the archives for Paranormal Soup, there'll be 3 of them where I'm on. So it was fun. And
a lot of fun.
It was. And it was when I was a radio baby then. Didn't know much. And was having a lot of fun doing it. And you guys made it fun. And I made lots of good friends on that show, the very first one, and I'm still friends with them now. And I'm happy to say I've met those people in person. So, which is nice to say, hey, I now have these true friends, not just Facebook friends. And you've gotten that too from being on Paranormal Soup and Weird Wednesday. Real friends, not just Facebook friends.
Exactly. Just really special people that I believe we were meant to cross paths for a reason.
Yep, I think we all have a couple of those, and like I said, I know I do, and I'm grateful for those friends. What do you guys have coming up on Paranormal Soup? Any interesting guests I need to hear about? That I need to stay up for?
Last week we were off because Jason had to do some inventory, but this week coming up we've got Ronald Meyer, who looks like he's an author. He wrote a book, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. So I believe he's an author talking about Bigfoot and aliens, and maybe the connection between the two.
Oh, that'd be interesting, because I know that if you go back to probably that very first show, I think I had a theory about Bigfoot and aliens on that show. Mm-hmm. But that was a long time ago. But within all the paranormal realm, what do you like to talk about the most?
I'm very interested in spirits and aliens, but I'm just very, very interested in the paranormal side, just the ghost side of it, I guess.
Have you ever had
communication?
Have you ever had an ET experience?
I have not.
There's times I wonder if some of the stuff that we're not witnessing might be more along the ET lines than the spirit lines, and vice versa. I never know. I know that I hear, feel, and see stuff all the time, but me hearing, seeing, or feeling doesn't necessarily mean that I actually did see anything. I can't prove it to anybody.
Yeah.
I can't take a picture of what I'm seeing. I did hear you during the show tonight when you were talking about the lady that was walking by your door and turning on your light that you thought looked like your mom. To you, was she solid, or did she seem to be,
She was
floaty?
solid. No, she was a solid person. I thought it was my mom.
Because I've seen, when I see spirits, I see them 99% of the time. You can't tell a difference between them and a person. For me,
Mm-hmm.
very, very seldom do I see something, wispy.
I do get the wispies in the corners of my eyes a lot. I'll get some like darting shadows and a little wispy spirit like that. But that experience with her was full on.
It does make me wonder if it's a family member. So
I've been trying to figure that out, and that's one of my own personal things I've been doing with ITC, trying to figure out, and I'll never get a name, and even if I do, there's, I'll never know if that's who it really is, but Elizabeth always comes up with it, but I'm always trying to figure out who this woman is. I've just been intrigued by it since then.
Other than ITC research, is there any other what am I trying to say? I just lost my train of thought.
I do card readings and do pendulum work, things like that.
How often do you do those?
Lately, I haven't been as good with it, but I was trying to do card work at least every day and then once a week. But I have a meditation ritual that I do every night, and I do my pendulum work. I do candle work, candle magic.
And from the candle magic, what kind of candle magic do you do?
Depends on what I'm looking for. If I'm looking to, say, change my luck around, I've got special techniques that I do. Again, it's the intent that I'm putting out there. It just depends on the purpose.
Okay, I found the question that's out over here in the speaker chat. It's from Mary Strickland. Happy birthday, Mary. Does Jamie have an opinion on what she thinks shadow people are? It's something that she likes to ask everyone.
I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm not exactly sure why some come across as shadows, if they're lower vibrational spirits. I really don't know.
It always makes me wonder if it's just it's a spirit that can't fully manifest, and so that's just how it shows itself at that point. It just can't. It's not charged enough. Needs more batteries.
Yeah.
And there is a book that just came out. Well, will be coming out again because it came out early about shadow people from Mike Ricksecker, and I remember seeing his presentation on them, and he asked me my opinion, and we had very similar opinions on shadow people. On shadow people, do you feel like, with your limited knowledge of them, do you feel that they are good or bad, or could be either?
I believe they could be either. The ones I had when I was a child, for some reason, I almost feel like those could have been alien almost to me for some reason. Like, those are the three presences I still feel with me. Them and the woman. I always feel like I've got three men and one woman with me. And it just so happens I had those three shadows and the lady. Those were very positive and comforting to me. I've had some mischievous shadow people. I think it could just go either way.
I do too. I don't think that it's that you can lump them into one category. Demons are one category. We could sit here and talk all night about that. But when it comes right down to shadow people, I don't think that there's enough evidence to say that they're all good, they're all bad, so in fact, I don't know if there's any evidence other than shadows that we've seen. And so it's just kind of weird. But like I said, I've only seen a couple shadow people in my time. And most of what I see is full-fledged. They look like a full-fledged person. Like you could walk up and touch them.
Yeah.
So and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if somebody did, walk up and touch them. So we're going to be signing off here. I hope everybody will enjoy Jamie D, and we'll go out there and find her in social media land. And next week, my guest will be Dale Kazmarek, and he has been quoted in books by Hans Holzer and some other knowledgeable people in the paranormal. Like, let's see. I have one of the books. I can't remember what it is, but by the time the show comes up, you'll know all about it. And Dale's been on multiple TV shows, and he is just an interesting individual. So thank you all for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will see you all next Monday at 7 p.m. Central. And thank you so much, Jamie, for being on.
Thank you.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watch a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.